Hi and welcome everyone. We're going to give it just a minute for folks to log in before we get started, but thank you all for joining us. So welcome everyone. I'm going to give it one more minute. I think there are folks still logging in, so we'll give it a minute to get started, but thanks for being here and hang on just a minute and we'll get started. Okay, Sheila, if you're ready, maybe I'll start with introducing you and welcoming everyone.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the Social Workers Confronting Racial Injustice Conference. We are delighted you're here. I'm Tova Walsh. I'm an associate professor in the Sandra Rosenbaum School of Social Work at UW-Madison, and I am really delighted that you are here for this very timely and important breakout presentation with Sheila Badwan. So to share a visual description of me, I've got curly dark hair and glasses. I am sitting in my office at UW-Madison and excited to see folks from Madison and around the country as I'm looking at this list of participants, and we're very glad you're here with us. I'd like to share our university's land acknowledgement before we get started. The University of Wisconsin-Madison and the Sandra Rosenbaum School of Social Work occupy ancestral Ho-Chunk land, a place their nation has called Dejop since time immemorial. In an 1832 treaty, the Ho-Chunk were forced to cede this territory. Decades of ethnic cleansing followed when both the federal and state government repeatedly but unsuccessfully sought to forcibly remove the Ho-Chunk from Wisconsin. This history of colonization informs our shared future of collaboration and innovation. Today, UW-Madison rejects the inherent sovereignty of the, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Today, UW-Madison respects the inherent sovereignty of the Ho-Chunk Nation, along with the 11 other First Nations of Wisconsin. Um, Thank you. I want to give a couple of quick Zoom reminders before we start our session. This presentation is being recorded and it will be available on the conference website at a later date. To access this presentation, you were required to provide your name and email, and this will allow us to log our attendees and email you information on CEUs for this presentation. So you want to make sure that you're logged in correctly so that you can get that information, which will get distributed to you about CEUs at a later date. Cameras and microphones are muted, but you can use the Q&A box throughout this session to enter questions for our presenters. Please know that due to the large number of attendees, we may or may not be able to get all of the questions submitted, but I will integrate as many questions as we can at the end after Sheila has a chance to finish her presentation. Emmy, I'm going to mention to you that I can see questions popping up in the Q&A about logistical things like getting CEUs and logging into Zoom and so on. So if you wouldn't mind responding to those, that would be terrific. And then we'll save kind of substantive questions for our presenter till the end. Let's see. So I think that's all the kind of technical pieces that I have for you. And now it's my pleasure to welcome our presenter and introduce you all to Sheila Badwan. Sheila is the executive director of Hanan Relief Group in Milwaukee. I have had the kind of privilege and honor of getting a glimpse of Sheila's work over the last year or so, and I'm so impressed. So I am just really excited to hear more and learn more from her about the work that she and her organization are doing. And we are delighted to have her here with us. So in her role with Hanan, Sheila works with refugee and immigrant populations in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin community. Along with that work, she serves on an advisory board with our Peaceful Home, a culturally specific domestic violence program with the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition in Wisconsin. She works in a number of capacities to celebrate refugees, including helping to plan the World Refugee Day that happens through Linden Sculpture Gardens. Sheila was named Hero of the Month by a local Milwaukee magazine, Shepherd Express, in July 2022, and altogether is just a phenomenal person. So I am just kind of thrilled that she is here with us and want to turn it over to you, Sheila, to tell us about your work. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Tova, and thank you everyone for attending and having me. Just to give a visual description of me, I have long, dark brown hair, big brown eyes, and I'm wearing a green and black keffiyeh to represent my Palestinian identity. I also have a really nice picture behind me of a traditional Palestinian women wearing traditional dresses. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Want to get a little history about Hanan and the work that we do and how I got into this work. About 10 years ago, back in 2016, during the Syrian crisis, I was in a totally different field, doing medical coding and billing. And when the Syrian crisis started here in Milwaukee, they started bringing in Syrian refugees. The Syrian crisis, we saw a high number of Syrians coming into Wisconsin. And I started with a text message I got from a friend of mine that was helping a family in Sheboygan. And really, it was just a picture of these Syrian children and said, hey, we need help. There's new families coming in and they need help with someone that speaks the language. I do speak Arabic. And so I saw this picture of these little kids and felt like I needed to help. You was watching the news and you feel helpless when you see children being bombed and killed. And they were right here in Milwaukee where we could help. So I went up to Sheboygan, and that led me down to Milwaukee. Um, the first family I helped really was a huge Syrian family with 11 children. And what really got me working with this family was I felt we had the same similar culture. The mother was, the same, almost the same age as me. I have two kids, and she didn't speak the language. She was frightened and afraid. Um, and that led me to a whole career change. Fast forward to 2026 today, that family, because of organizations like Hanan, we were really able to help them not just get on their feet and not just, but really help them long term. Today, that same family, the oldest son graduated from Marquette University. He had a full scholarship to Marquette. The family purchased a home. Both the mom and dad are working. And just to see the impact that we were able to make, and that this was a community effort. This wasn't just Hanan. This was our volunteers. These were our partner agencies, collaboration. And now a lot of these families give back and they come and volunteer with us to help and support um, uh, additional families. So we have grown here at Hanan. We started as an all volunteer organization. We did have a setback last year. We had at one point 27 staff members. Today we are a staff of 15. And majority of my staff are refugees, newly arrived refugees, and we have close to 15 languages here spoken at Hanan. We last year we rebranded. We were formerly known as Hanan Refugees Relief Group. However, we really support not just refugees in our office. We also help immigrants and other vulnerable populations. Anyone that walks in our door, we support them. The word Hanan in Arabic means compassionate, and we anyone that is in need, really, if they walk in our door, we've had tons of different populations walk in our door, and we don't turn anyone away. These are just our pillars, what we believe in. um, and as I mentioned, Hanan means compassion. Resettlement work can be very tedious, and I'll get into that in a little bit. It's very tedious when a newly arrived family comes in. We are federally and state funded, and you have certain requirements, and we are not the typical resettlement agency that you will find that have done this work maybe for 30 to 40 years. We really do, my staff, really, they go above and beyond in making sure families are integrated. I mean, we provide so many things that I can't really name all of them today, but we really provide a lot of work, intense support to families when they initially come in. And it's really to help them eventually get on their feet. We have seen the impact. We have really seen families opening up businesses, and getting involved in the community and supporting and giving back. Just to give you an example, one of our first Syrian families that came in, they were four brothers from Syria. And I remember when they first came in, I ordered them a pizza and I had it delivered. And they called me up and they were so afraid to open the door. And they were afraid to walk down the street because they didn't know um, how the rules and laws here were. And fast forward today, that same four brothers have opened up their own tiling business. They are volunteering with us. They even attend our annual fundraiser and give back. And so we really see the impact that we make when you invest in your community, when you invest in supporting newcomers. This is just our team right now, who we have on our team. Um, Many of my staff, there are some of my staff members that speak multiple languages, some of them up to five languages, and I'm really just impressed with the amount of work that they do in this office. It can be social work is can be very draining and tiring, especially right now in this current climate that we're in. It's very stressful. I have uh, a lot of anxiety and stress amongst not just my staff, but clients. And these are just some of the languages. This is some of my staff members. We, during the Afghan crisis back in 2022, we had the opportunity to start resettlement, in resettling Afghans. And so we took on that challenge, and that really led us to become more structured, to actually start hiring staff, and we really grew pretty quickly in a short amount of time. And with that, we were able to have to hire a lot of staff that uh, are able, that are culturally specific. We want to provide that cultural specific case management, and a lot of challenges that we faced. Milwaukee never had, when we started resettling Afghans, we never had an Afghan community. So we kind of had to um, do a lot of training, speak with experts outside of Wisconsin. And now we have a pretty good community here in Milwaukee, and Afghans have really have established themselves. I do have staff that are Afghan right now. So what is refugee resettlement? What this means is a nonprofit organization like Hanan. We work with the government and a larger um, resettlement, national VOLAG resettlement agency at a national level that um, we partner with to resettle refugees. And this particular program, the what is called the Reception and Placement Program, is a 90-day program, and we are legally responsible for these families when they first arrive to the US. It's an intensive 90-day program. We have to find housing. We have to set their children up for school, enroll adults in ESL, schedule health screenings, and really work to help them find employment. And we also have provide cultural orientation. Um, this can be a lot, especially in the first 90 days. And really, when I started in this work, I knew anyone that has really been in resettlement work will tell you that this is not enough time. Uh, 90 days to really adapt to a new culture, especially in the Western culture, we have such a fast-paced environment. This isn't enough time. So after the 90 days, we have programs that are state funded through the Office of Refugee Resettlement that are up to 5 years, but they're not as intense. And so we found that we're grateful at Hanan to have um, a lot of volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers that help us with day-to-day things such as taking people to doctor appointments, helping people understand, helping them open their mail, really just the 90-day program. It's challenging, um, but it is after those 90 days, we start to see families struggle. And so um, then the state funding programs, we can help them additionally with employment, with ESL, but it's not as intense. I'm happy to say majority of the families that Hanan has resettled, we've resettled since 2023 over 500 refugees. Um, Majority of them are employed, they are working, and it can be challenging. The work is very challenging, but when you see the difference you make, it is very rewarding. I'm just going to play Tova, Emmy. I'm going to play a short video just to show what newly arrived family. Let's see if this plays.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Emil, and I work in Hanan Refugee Relief Group. And we did rent this 3 bedrooms apartment for a family of 6. And we brought all the stuff what they need, like beds, couches, kitchen table, and kitchen stuffs, and also all like hygienes. So it's very clean, right? Actually, this is our first arrival. We trying our best to make them self-sufficient as soon as possible, to find them job and also enroll them in ESL classes to learn English. We are on our way to the airport. So the rest of our team, we are already there. We are going to airport to welcome the new arrivals and welcome them and bringing them home.
Hi, my name is Sakina. I am from Hanan Refugees Relief Group. Thank you to Islam Relief all your support.
Hi, I'm Sheila Badwan. I'm the Executive Director of Hanan Refugees Relief. We are excited today to accept our first arrival under the Reception and Placement Program. We are the local affiliate of Islamic Relief USA. This is a big moment for us, and we're so excited. We look forward to resettling many more refugees years ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I will be welcome by the product.
Yeah, alhamdulillah বেশি খুশি লাগে না খুশি লাগে তো রাখলে
আচ্ছা সমাজে যে ধরা আছে তো
আসলে আমার সব দিয়ে দিই বেশি খুশি লাগে না তো তোমারা একটা হইলাম যে আইটা মতো তুমি হইতে হয়ে যে তো আর তুমি আসপাই ইয়া আপনি যদি গায়ে যেতে নই আসি আর লাগলা তো আর ইয়ার দিয়ে দিই কথা ইয়ার দিয়ে দিই এই নয় যদি ইয়ার পর পূজা লাগে যদি ইয়ার তো আর জানা দিয়ে দিই ইয়া লাগলে হচ্ছে ইয়ার বেশি খুশি লাগে না তো আর খুশি ইয়া ভাই ভালো লাগে না তো আমরা খুশি আছে
One moment, I'm just going to reshare my screen. Um, okay. All right. And these are some of the programs that we have. Let me just go back here. So these are some of the programs that we have here at Hanan. Our refugee resettlement program is just one particular program. We do have other programs here, and this is all to support newly arrived refugees, but also current refugees that are here. We have the biggest things that we are facing right now in Milwaukee with the past year is food and immigration. And these are areas that we're going to be working on this year in 2026. We do a lot of educational programs here in our office. We have a lot of moving parts. As you can see, we have a healthy living program. We have a great maternal health program here that we educate refugee women when they're pregnant and also after they deliver. This program is still running. We just completed that program. It's a 6-week course. We have group therapy classes, a youth program. Some of this is funded through the state, and some of it is funded through private funders. But right now, we have shifted a little bit because of the current climate, and our food and legal and educational programs will be priority in 2026, as well as employment. Right now, we have, as of last year, and we have stopped resettlement and currently focusing on the current refugees that are here, the existing refugees that are in need of support. One of the things that we have in our educational program is the Dr. Nassif Scholarship. And that particular scholarship we started in, I'd say about 4 years ago. We had one of our founding committee members in Milwaukee for Hanan was Dr. Ahmed Nassif. He was a Syrian doctor that really supported a lot of the Syrian refugees when they first arrived. He passed away, unfortunately, of cancer, and we started that particular scholarship in his name. And today, I'm proud to say that we've been able to give out over 25 scholarships in his name right here in Milwaukee and actually across Wisconsin. We've been able to give that particular scholarship. It's for refugees and immigrants. We have, as you can see, we have a lot of moving parts at Hanan. It can be a lot, but when you see the impact you make in supporting families and really helping them, our goal is to really help them um, provide this solution that's long term, that they get on their feet, they're working and contributing right back to the economy. These are the languages or the populations that we serve. Rohingya is starred because the Rohingya population, we do have the largest Rohingya population in the US here in Milwaukee, and that is the biggest population that we've resettled, and that is here in Milwaukee. We have all of these other populations, and when we typically do a lot of our educational classes, it can be very challenging to have interpretation for all of these populations. So we try to do 2 to 3 languages when we have, for example, our maternal health class or our, health and wellness class, or we also have ESL classes on site as well. These are just some of our achievements. We started official resettlement in 2023, and we really hit the ground running. We were able to, since 2023, we were able to resettle over 500 refugees in partnership with International Rescue Committee and Islamic Relief USA. Our partners, Islamic Relief USA, was working to become the first Muslim national resettlement agency. However, unfortunately, last year would have been the year they would have applied, and they weren't able to apply for that. We also, in partnership with Islamic Relief, in 2022, we were able to resettle the Afghan refugees that I had mentioned earlier. And that really, we won an award as well for that particular year. We also became accredited through USCIS. Last year, we became a recognized organization to provide legal immigration and citizenship applications. During the Afghan crisis, there was a shortage of accredited reps here in Wisconsin. And one of the things the state really wanted was to push resettlement agencies to have accredited. There was, I think, only one here in Milwaukee that was accredited at the time, which was International Institute of Wisconsin. However, we're proud to say that Hanan is now accredited, and we are providing immigration services here in terms of adjustment of status. We provide green card adjustments, work authorizations, family reunification petitions. That particular program we are scaling, especially in the last year, we've really scaled this particular program. And we're funded by multiple, not just, we also have the county, we're funded to support older refugees. And I had mentioned the scholarships for the Dr. Ahmed Nassif Scholarship. These are just some of our partners. We do a lot, but I can tell you we can't do the work without our partners or our volunteers. We work with these partners day to day, depending on the needs. We have Hunger Task Force. We have a halal food pantry on site. And actually today is one of the days that people come and pick up food box if they have food insecurities. We are seeing a huge rise in food insecurities right now in the refugee and immigrant population. We're grateful to work with Hunger Task Force, who we started with them during the Afghan crisis, and we have really scaled that particular program, especially right now. Um, these programs really we believe strongly in partnership, and a lot of these partners, for example, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church, they would do a lot of our home setups. They would, they mentor a lot of our families right now and supporting just day-to-day things that um, we might not really think about, such as, um, uh, a school calls and the mother doesn't understand why the school is calling, or the child missed the bus. These are real things that we're facing. Families tend to get left behind if they don't have that support initially. And so we're grateful for all of these partners, and they have supported Hanan in the last since the beginning of resettlement, when we started resettlement. These are just a few pictures. On the left is our youth program. This is a session. We have two different youth programs. One is for 5 to 17, and then we have one from 18 to 25. And this is led actually by Miriam Durrani, our cultural programs manager. She's done a wonderful job in this particular program. A lot of refugee youth they face a lot of challenges in terms of integrating into the culture, having just really identity, feeling, not accepted. And she works really with them and has worked with MPS as well. And another organization that we partner with is Sea Literacy. They all work with the youth, refugee youth. On the right, we have the Dr. Ahmed Nassif Scholarship recipients. This was actually back in 2022. These students, actually, all of these women are attending or might have graduated by now. I'm not sure which ones graduated, but UWM. They came in together at UWM, and we were able to provide them scholarships towards their tuition. And I'm proud to say that two of them actually worked with Hanan for a short period of time, and we were happy to have them employed with us for a little bit. And ways you can help and support. So we have many ways. People ask me how can we support an organization like Hanan or any organization that's doing this work statewide. Obviously, donating is always helpful. We have one of the unique things about Hanan is we're not just a resettlement agency. We have other programs that really help support families throughout the year. So we have an offsite warehouse where we have contracts with organizations like Baby to Baby. We also provide diapers for families. We have a system here in place for families. We also do a lot of drives, a lot of partner organizations, a lot of schools, they'll do drives for us. A lot of people will say, hey, I want to provide food. We really work with the different communities all over in Milwaukee and beyond Milwaukee. You can share our posts, follow us on social media to see what we're up to. This is something that we tend to post about the work that we're doing. If there's an upcoming event, for example, we have an upcoming Ramadan food box event on February 14th, where we'll distribute close to 700 food boxes in the month of Ramadan. We had back in November, we had a turkey distribution. We were able to distribute over 700 turkeys in partnership with Hunger Task Force and Islamic Relief. And volunteer. I can tell you, our volunteers are the core. We always go back to the beginning. Our volunteers, without our volunteers, we can't do this work. We have volunteers right now that are volunteering for our ESL classes. We have an ESL program at home to support those that can't attend our ESL classes on site because they might have young children that they can't attend. We have volunteers that help with doctor appointments, taking transportation. That's transportation we found is a huge area that is very challenging for a lot of our families to make it to appointments, to make it to um, events that we do. So volunteers also have formed relationships with refugees and really has, for me personally, I mean, when I was volunteering, it had a huge impact, the way I saw things. I mean, and these refugees, I really want to emphasize, refugees aren't just, they are people that are doctors, lawyers. I've met engineers that are refugees, and it's heartbreaking to see them come to this country and they have to start all over again, and are not able to, some of them are not able to, unfortunately, use their skills. They have to really start all over and find a job in order to support their families. So it really has an impact when you volunteer and you meet these families. And this is how we really at Hanan were able to we really strongly believe in quality, uh, providing quality service and really helping the families get on their feet. This is just a little bit about our volunteers. This is one of our volunteers. Also, home setups. A lot of our volunteers love to do home setups. When we have a family that comes in, they go in and set up the home, provide the food, and we are grateful for the volunteers that we have. We also always try to reward our volunteers, our annual volunteer um, luncheons that we have annually, and then also our annual fundraiser. We actually have a annual Volunteer of the Year award to show appreciation um, for our volunteers. This is just some of the things I just talked about, what volunteers do at Hanan. And special events. This is where we're kind of unique in the work that we do. We have 5 annual community events. We also have a back to school event that this past year, I think, brought in over 1,000 people to the event. Um, these are these are areas where we really, it's part of our long-term mission, is really trying to get people to get on their feet. And this is an area that we feel that, and also making them feel welcomed. We provide halal turkey giveaway, a Qurbani event, and our refugee and immigrant health fair. We started the refugee and immigrant health fair really to we saw mental health last year was one of the areas that we really focused on, and um, we were able to have multiple languages and breakout sections, workshops for this particular health fair, and we were grateful to partner organizations that really stepped in and helped with that particular fair. And this is just to give you an idea what these flyers are usually out on our socials. We, as you can see on the right, these are just some of the volunteers at one of our events. We usually put a call out for volunteers throughout the year for all of our events. And we just, you can see the impact that we make in these events. And we have received such great feedback from the community at large. Now I want to open it up to questions. And Tova might need your
Yeah.
help here.
I'm going to jump in. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, great. If you want to stop the share, we've got some questions
Okay.
in the Q&A that I'll read out. I've got some questions for you, and I want to encourage folks in the audience to feel free to use the Q&A box to add more questions. Before I ask you a question, I'm just going to add, Sheila, for folks who are here, that I've been to the building, to Sheila's office, and I just want to communicate, because it's hard maybe to get through slides, kind of what a warm and caring place it is. And it is, I think, really extraordinary to come into a space where so many languages are being spoken and people are arriving with such an array of needs. And just the environment that you've created is just incredibly special and compassionate and welcoming. And it is just really in contrast to some spaces that I've been in where people might go to seek help and it can feel really off-putting, or, like, I don't know, you have a really special agency. So I'm excited for folks to hear more about what you do. We have some questions in the Q&A. So I see this question from Lynette here asking, and she says that she sees that you do some group therapy, and she's wondering about mental health services and some of the trauma that folks might arrive with and how you address mental health needs.
Yeah, so we partner. We're fortunate enough to have a counseling center on site. So one of the areas that we focused on in group therapy was during the Afghan crisis. We had Afghan women, and what we did was we didn't want to call it group therapy, because therapy in a lot of cultures is a stigma. If you say you need therapy or mental health, this is sort of a stigma and seen, really looked down upon. So we usually partner with mental health specialists. So the Muslim Community Health Center, Sebastian Psychology Family Practice, and Zena Counseling. These are our areas when we see families, a lot of PTSD that we see depending on where they're coming from, anxiety, uh, adapting to a new culture is very difficult. It's very challenging.
Thank you. I see a question here from Emily about whether your program is able to assist with U or T visa petitions, and maybe you can just talk about some of the kind of support you provide generally around visas and work permits and things that
Yeah.
folks need to be applying for.
So right now, and I'm sorry, what was that last question? You said
I was saying just some of the legal services or support surrounding kind of immigration and kind of petitions that people might need to file.
So we have right now with our, like I said, this started last year. We have one accredited, partially accredited rep. However, we have two more being accredited. We'll know by March. So this program we are scaling up, but we, in particular, were able to help with green card adjustments, green card renewals, citizenship applications, work authorizations, family reunification petitions. We're able to help with a variety. However, we're focused right now, to be honest, we're focused right now on adjustment of status for our current refugees in our capacity. However, we are looking at everything that we can do, but we are focused right now to get those that still need adjustment of status. We also have done asylum applications as well.
Thanks. So now there's a question about whether your volunteers use translation devices, and if so, kind of what they use and what they find most useful, or kind of how you approach all the different language needs.
So at Hanan, we're lucky enough to have multiple languages here. We try to use in-person languages. We just feel it's more personable. We have brought in contracted interpreters, but we also have used language services. So we have used Tarjimly. Tarjimly is an app that we have used in the past, and we found that it's been very useful. But we right now are focused really on in person because we found that it's easier and just more personable.
So another question is about your reach in Wisconsin and kind of beyond Milwaukee, whether you work with people in Dane County or in other parts of the state, and your or support that you might know of for folks outside of the Milwaukee area.
So we have worked across Wisconsin. We have worked briefly in Madison. It really depends. We've actually, with the Afghans, we've helped as far as, Appleton, Eclair, Sheboygan, Racine, Kenosha. So we have worked outside of Milwaukee. And we've had people drive down for some of our events as well.
Thanks. So another question, and this is a big one here, about kind of how you're adapting in this political climate. So whether your policies have changed or shifted, or anything about your kind of practice and your work that might be shifting with changes in the climate.
Yeah. Yes, it has obviously changed a lot. There's our language, when you're applying for funding or you're we have a rep currently we're doing a website revamp, we can't have certain things on our website. And it's right now we're doing in-house. We actually have partnered with multiple organizations to do Know Your Rights for particular populations. We just had one actually last night for the Afghan population with Islamic Society Milwaukee and Wisconsin Muslim Civic Alliance. We had a Know Your Rights for Afghans for Pashto and Dari because our Afghans came, unfortunately, they have a parolee status, so some of them are still waiting, for green cards or their asylum approvals. So there's a lot of anxiety and trying to. I had what happens if ICE comes into our building? What do we do? And we had a whole staff meeting just about that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that we are shifting and putting priority on. There's a lot of administration, a lot of policies that have changed in terms of food SNAP benefits. As of September 30th of 2026, refugees that have not adjusted their status and don't have green cards will not qualify for food stamps. And so we we're already seeing a huge increase of food insecurities. However, we do anticipate to see even more changes, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you. So one kind of specific question, somebody's asking about the app you mentioned. If you could say how you spell that, the name of that app,
Targemly.
Targemly.
Yes, great question.
Yes.
It's TAJ. One moment, let me just
No problem.
look it up here again. Oh. So it's TARJIMLY.
Okay. I'll type that into the box here too. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So folks, I'm going to encourage people, if you have questions, to add them in the Q&A. But meanwhile, I get to ask a question of you, Sheila. You mentioned before, and I think what you were just saying about the climate relates to this too. It's really intense work, and it can be draining for your staff and volunteers. And I'm wondering, kind of for yourself and for your staff, how you think about kind of sustainability, especially as things get more challenging and the needs are so great. Kind of how you protect your ability to keep doing this work.
Yeah, we've had, unfortunately, we are preparing, we've had to cut hours, we've had to do layoffs, but, um, you know, one of the things about my staff, they're very understanding. They know, the situation. And we've had volunteers, more volunteers step up to say, hey, how can we help? We want to be able to help and support. We know the work that you're doing. But in terms of, we've had some team building sessions and just really trying to keep the motivation and small wins. Sometimes you get good news. Small wins are always good to celebrate. And the biggest thing for me is to make sure my staff feel safe and that we're able to support our clients the best way we can right now.
Mhm. Have you found that for your clients, are people feeling kind of comfortable coming to events and into spaces where it's services for refugees, or is there more fear about engaging right now?
So at last year we had our World Refugee Day event here in Milwaukee, and it wasn't as big as of a turnout that we, typically see, and that is because there is fear. There is definitely fear in the, community. Um, uh, um, right now, there's a lot of fear. Just even with the Know Your Rights training yesterday, we did offer to have it on Zoom as well, and also in person. It was a hybrid model, and uh, we definitely see fear right now. And our goal right now is to really educate people what happens and educate families, in terms of what their rights are, and also preparing them if a family member gets picked up, what is their A number, what should you have, and making sure they're carrying their documents when they go out.
Mhm. So another question just came in here in the Q&A asking about whether you're seeing delays for folks who are applying for various documents, whether it's work permits or extensions for parolee status, kind of what you're seeing happening now.
Yeah, so yes, we have seen delays. There are delays right now in work permits. And unfortunately, there's not much that we can do. I know that we partner with some other organizations as well. We contact USCIS, but looking at all avenues. I know if there's a delay with um, not just work permits, but for instance, a client has, not received her green card, and she received a green card approval. And once it's after 18 months, then we can, challenge that and say, hey, she hasn't received her green card. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and we're working around that with our staff and with partner organizations as well.
Yeah. Can you tell us maybe a little bit more about your partnerships, and for folks who might be kind of located all around, if they work in
Yeah,
various kinds of social work roles and might be working
yeah,
with the client, kind of
of
how to
course.
figure out the right places to partner with to find support for your immigrant clients?
Yeah, so we have we do a lot at Hanan. We have a lot of wraparound services. However, I'll give an example for immigration. We don't have immigration attorneys. We have accredited reps, but we don't have immigration attorneys. So we do partner with Catholic Charities here in Milwaukee. They have a lot of clients, Afghan clients that we have referred over, depending on the case. If it is more of a critical case, then we partner with them. We also have partnered with Community Center for Immigrants. They are also an accredited rep organization, have been a little bit more established than, and I think they're a little bit bigger in terms of immigration work. When it comes to food insecurities, we have Hunger Task Force. We started, their former CEO, Sherry Tussler, was amazing, really wanted to help. We found that refugees, when they go to food pantries, they don't eat certain foods. They don't eat cereal or peanut butter, or, and so they actually developed these food boxes that have culturally specific foods, not just, one refugee family will eat. Actually, a lot of the refugee populations will eat. And so, Hunger Task Force is a partner, Muslim Community Health Center, Aurora Healthcare, Ascension. These are areas that we work with closely in terms of refugee health. And when a refugee first comes in, they get um, medical screenings, making sure they're connected with their, primary care doctors, and Sea Literacy. Sea Literacy is one of our longtime partners doing great work in the Milwaukee area. Ann Bingham, who is the executive director, they have a tutoring program, and they tutor, I'd say close to 100 students a week. It can be anywhere from elementary school all the way up to college, and a great program. I would encourage everyone to check out Sea Literacy as well. There's so many I can't even think of, but I mean, I would say the state, I do co-chair the State Refugee Advisory Council. So we meet 4 times a year to talk about issues in Wisconsin and the refugee work that maybe major issues. Mental health is a big one. And Sebastian Family Psychology, they're actually funded through the state to support refugees in Milwaukee with trauma, with different areas of mental health. Yeah, it's been, in terms of partner organizations, we right now are looking, how can we all support each other? And how can we, right now, especially, there's such a heightened fear, anxiety in the community, and that's something that we're working towards. But also, how can we support each other, because we are going through this um, uh, this time. It's been very challenging. And we have, trying to think of other other partner organizations. We have a lot of faith groups that have partnered with us. Islamic Society Milwaukee is a very good partner. Have really supported families that we do see families that are facing evictions. We've had family members that have been laid off from jobs, and we work with them to help support. If people need rental support. St. Ian, St. Anne's Seton and Church in New Berlin as well is one of our close partners. And we've worked with tons of churches I've actually spoken at multiple churches this past December to talk about the work that we're doing. Um, our goal at Hanan is right now is really to make sure people feel safe, providing that education, the critical education they need right now. If they're picked up by ICE, or if a family member is picked up by ICE, what do you do? And I think that's what we can do right now. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So in your role with the State Advisory Council, I'm
Yeah.
wondering if there are things that you're seeing or that you're working on that folks who are listening might be able to advocate around, like as you're, looking at the landscape of the state and thinking about what could be done to
Yeah.
better support refugees. How can we help?
Yeah. So right now with refugee resettlement, I'll give a kind of a background. The reception and placement program that typically brings in refugees last year was actually stripped down, and they took this particular program and put it into another program called Office of Refugee Resettlement. So they laid off the entire department, which is through the State Department, and they're designing the resettlement model to become state-led. So this year is, full of uncertainties, but I would say advocate to your elected officials, really educate people. There is data out there right now through the Cato Institute about refugee resettlement and how much refugees actually contribute back to the economy. They did a study of 15 years, and I can share that after this webinar. But it really shows how much they contribute back. There's such a stigma of, refugees are coming in and taking up benefits, and they work jobs, to be honest, that typical Americans, won't work. And Right now, what we're hoping to do is a lot of advocacy in terms of with employers and why, if we do go to the state-led model, what that means is historically, refugee resettlement would be at a national level. So IRC would say, we're going to send 50 people to Wisconsin. But now what they're planning to do is get rid of the national partner and send everything to the state. So if a state doesn't want to, if they don't want to resettle refugees, which we're seeing in Texas right now, the governor has the right to opt out of bringing in refugees. So it is, the model is changing. We will see that most likely in 2027, where they are pushing this particular program, which has a new name change and everything. It won't be called the Reception and Placement Program, but it will be more of a state-led model. That's what we're talking about right now. But to be honest, right now, we're really talking just to sit at a state level is how we can keep our families safe, getting them informed about their rights, and um, doing a lot of, our organization is doing a lot of Know Your Rights. We did it in the Rohingya community, but also making sure people are carrying their information with them. Uh, we have seven, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think we have seven resettlement agencies here in Wisconsin. There's one in Madison as well. Jewish Social Services, we work with them closely. We have some across Wisconsin, three here in Milwaukee, but really supporting each other. That's the most important thing right now.
Yeah, so supporting each other and fundamentally kind of keeping families safe are top of mind right now. And that makes perfect sense. I'm going to ask you a question though, that if we imagine for a minute a world where you could kind of dream big about what you would like to do with Hanan, and if there were the resources for it, what's kind of your vision about if we had all the kind of support that was needed to really, in an optimal way, welcome refugees in our communities? What would that look like?
Oh boy. I think right now, our focus at Hanan is not, yes, we provide that initial short-term solution, but employment and economic, employment is an area that providing those resources to families. What we've seen is um, we can get a job for a refugee right away. However, time management skills. I mean, there's a lot of things with refugees. They start working and they might not know the language right away, but they still have a job. And I think with us is having a wraparound support in terms of an employment, a larger employment, I would say, program to support refugees that really entails um, things that a typical agency wouldn't be able to really support. That's something that we're really looking at, how we can support on a long-term scale and working with employers to invest in their staff and the refugees that are doing this work.
Yeah, so if anyone has any final questions that you would like to ask Sheila, feel free to put those in the Q&A box. Otherwise, we're getting kind of close to the end of our time together, but we have a time for a few more questions. And I'm going to just ask Sheila, thinking for folks who might be kind of newer to this work, if you have, or maybe newer to thinking about how they can support refugees and immigrants in the context of the work they do, which might be in all different sectors. Do you have suggestions to kind of continue learning, like beyond this webinar? If you're, wanting to learn more, where to look for kind of information about how you can be supportive in Wisconsin or grow your skills and preparation to
so they can
families?
I would say you can go to the state of Wisconsin has a list of all the state funded refugee organizations. that in your areas. So like we're here in Milwaukee. There's quite a number of, organizations in Madison. There's also, on social media, there's a lot of Facebook groups. For instance, in Milwaukee, we have a group called Milwaukee Refugee Supporters. People are joining that group. Some people would like to donate, furniture. Some people like to, volunteer for ESL classes. So people join that group. We have one. I know there's one in Sheboygan. Pretty sure there's one in Madison. I would say look on social media, but the state also has a list of resources that are really handy. And follow us on Facebook, and you can follow Hanan. You can follow, any of the resettlement agencies. But if you're not sure, what refugee organization might be doing the work and you want to get involved, I would say go to the state website.
Great. Thank you. Those are good starting places for folks to continue learning and figure out what might be local to them. So I'll ask one more question about, I know you've got there's a focus on like the 90-day resettlement is, I think is maybe a more intensive period of support. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of sustained support that might be needed kind of when you are working with families over a period of years, kind of what kinds of things are important to keep in mind beyond the more immediate resettlement period, but as families continue to adjust and build their lives?
Yeah. So after those 90 days, we really, focus on, gradually transitioning families to understand they have to start paying rent. Well, first they have to get a job, but they have to start paying rent, and really understanding how financial literacy. We've actually had a lot of workshops internally of how to budget and how to, in the US, I always, I will never forget I had a grown Afghan man that was an engineer in his country, and he had a great job. When he came to the US, he was overwhelmed with the American bills, and you have to pay utilities, you have to really learn how to budget. And he wasn't used to all of these different bills. And so that can be very overwhelming for, doesn't matter what type of education you have. And so that's something that we really try to work on, is when that transition after those 90 days, it's critical for them to understand they have to get a job. It's critical that we teach them how to, pay their bills. And the challenge we see a lot also is secondary, the survivor's guilt. A lot of them will come here and feel like, wow, I came to the US, but I have family members still left there, my brother, my sister, and I'm obligated to take care of them. So a lot of them will also, when it comes to budgeting, explaining to them that you have to pay your rent first. If you have some extra money, you can send it to your family members. And that can be very, very challenging, because when they have family members saying, I'm starving in Afghanistan, and we see that a lot, unfortunately. And there's this survivor's guilt that they feel that they have to help, and they are okay, even if they, miss a rent payment, or, so we really have to do a lot of hardcore education in this transition period after those 90 days. Our main goal is to get them working after 90 days. Some of them work within those 90 days, but I think our main goal is to get them really up and working.
Yeah. Thank you. That's such a dilemma to feel, right, to be aware of families' needs at home and then also learning about the, financial pressures here. Yeah. And you're doing a lot of really crucial work to help people understand a new system and balance all those needs. We are kind of coming to the end of our time, so I'm just going to ask you, I have a couple of things to say in closing and reminders for everyone, but I'll just ask Sheila if there are kind of any closing thoughts or anything we didn't get to that you would like to kind of add before we close out this session. Yeah. No, good. Okay. Great. Well then, so I want to say a huge thank you to Sheila Badwan for sharing her time and expertise on all of this valuable information with us today. A big thank you to all who are in attendance for joining us. We really appreciate your commitment and efforts to confront racial injustice and joining us for this conference session today. You can watch for an email with a link to complete an evaluation for today's presentation. And also, if you signed up for CEUs and requested them when you registered, you'll get a separate email with information about your CEUs. The conference continues throughout the day, so you can go to the website for information on the remaining conference sessions. And we'll just remind you that the afternoon breakout sessions start at 12 p.m. Central. And then the closing plenary will begin at 2 p.m. Central on YouTube. So next session's on Zoom, and then the plenary will be on YouTube. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. And huge thank you to Sheila Badwan for your wonderful presentation, and especially for the very important work you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.